Hello, YouTube. Today I'm doing a video response to Mosler's seven frauds. Um, I'll put a link in the description if you want to know what the heck I'm talking about. But basically, Mosler, Warren Mosler, the MMT prophet, lists seven economic frauds or um, things that economists are wrong about, basically. So today, I already did a reaction to the seven frauds themselves. Today, I'm doing a little more in depth on the first fraud. So, fraud number one here is deadly innocent fraud number one. The federal government must raise funds through taxation or borrowing to spend. In other words, government spending is limited by its ability to tax or borrow. Um, so, actually, Uh, we're going to go back a little bit further to the introduction, where this was when Mosler was running for some political office, and he started out with a political proposal. Came in three parts. So the first was a payroll tax holiday. Of course, payroll taxes, that's the money that's taken off your check. And I think Mosler at the time said uh, a couple making like $100,000 would see, is it 600 each? Yeah, I think 600 each per check. Get rid of those payroll taxes. So I am on board with the payroll tax cut. I like any tax cut. Payroll taxes, absolutely. Not much point in collecting those. Um, the only caveat I would like to say is that uh, contra Mosler, I do think these tax cuts need to be costed. That is, they need to accompany spending cuts. Otherwise, you run into the problem of out of control deficits and too much debt. So, I would like to see a reduction in government spending. Uh, as for where, take your pick: entitlements, uh, discretionary spending. I think there's ample room for cutting. I mean, I'm a Canadian, not an American, but I think like in the Canadian context, despite spending not that much, relatively speaking, our military, I think absolutely we could cut military spending. The federal government could cut all sorts of spending, like healthcare or education transfers to the provinces, or I mean that wouldn't even be the first place I would cut. You've got so many ministries that you don't even need. They can be just eliminated entirely. Um, like the Ministry of Agriculture, which gives subsidies to farmers, whatever. You don't need that. You can just have like a free market in farming to get rid of supply management and all that entirely. There's a lot of like ministries of development that you can just get rid of, and completely eliminate that. Um, so the jobs guarantee, I'm not in favor of, but I think it does highlight a very important problem, which is that you do have marginalized groups that are chronically unemployed, and Mosler lists a number of them in his work: high-risk teenagers, ex-cons, the disabled, older people, and I would just add in refugees or immigrants, especially older ones that don't speak the language. They're going to have a hard time getting employed. And absolutely, get these people to work if they want to work. Um, that's a real problem, mostly for these people. These groups that they don't have much income or they have to rely on the state or whatever. Also for society, I guess, having to support them. or their families having to support them. So Mosler Solutions a job guarantee. I would just eliminate the minimum wage, because you eliminate the minimum wage, and then at some rate, it might not be very high, but at some rate somebody will find use for them, and that also helps them acquire marketable skills and sort of move up the ladder. Uh, Now, granted, then you might have the problem with people that are employed, but for a mere pittance, $2 or $3 an hour. Um, so you might have to deal with that problem, but at least they wouldn't be unemployed. At least they would be in the job market, doing productive things for society, for themselves, earning an income, even if it's a small one. And this brings me to the Walmart welfare problem. We're gonna get a little off topic here. People accuse Walmart of being like a welfare bum, basically, because a lot of Walmart employees allegedly use state benefits. And this really, to me, seems a backwards way of looking at it. Uh, like, yes, okay, corporations look out for number one, which is their shareholders. They just try to make profit. That's what they do. That's their function. There's nothing wrong with that. That's their role in society. Okay. Um, and that whole system has generated a tremendous amount of wealth, not only for the shareholders but also for employees. I think like 2/3 of the wealth that's produced every year goes to workers. I have to double check that stat. I think that's true. And the system works. Okay, it works well. Now, that doesn't mean there's no role for other organizations, for charity or whatever. Um, but that's not the role. It's not the role of a corporation to be a charity. Okay, it's to employ people at the market rate for whatever their skills are, and a corporation that that pays low wages is actually doing a great thing, because it's employing low skilled workers that other companies don't even want to employ. Like if you have a company that are only paying $30 an hour, like a law firm or whatever. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but that's not doing any good for low skilled workers who don't have the skills to make $30 an hour, right? So any company that is paying low wages is doing a good thing. They're employing low skilled workers at their market rate, providing an opportunity for these people to earn an income, to get by. You know, they shouldn't be villainized for that. They should be lionized. They should be, respected. And then if the state or if in my system, private charity has to come in and sort of top these people up so they can get by, then that's sort of the best of both worlds. So under our present system, the state sort of monopolizes charity. The state comes in and gives these people food stamps. That's not Walmart cheating the system. That's uh, Walmart gets them 80% of the way there. The state carries them the other 20%. And it's sort of the system working to its maximum efficiency, right? Because these people are working jobs. Now, I'm not even sure it's true that full-time Walmart workers qualify for state assistance. I mean, you do the numbers, they're making too much for most means-tested systems. I don't know. Maybe in the States it's a little different, but I don't think they would qualify for much in Canada, aside from the general sort of welfare state benefits that everybody gets. We're getting off track here. Um, so payroll tax is good. Jobs guarantee, I'm not in favor of it. I think that eliminate the minimum wage, let the private sector employ these people, and then transfer money to the states. I mean, that's just, I don't know. I don't see the point, but I don't even want to get into it. It's not really relevant. So, all right. So moving on to the sort of nuts and bolts of this economic fraud, which was, what are we talking about here? Which was the federal government must raise funds through taxation or borrowing in order to spend. Okay. Um, and yes, the government does need to tax and borrow to finance its operations. That's why the government taxes and borrows money. Nothing mysterious about it. Like any other organization, they have a primary source of revenue, in this case, taxes, which are collected through extortion, through the threat of violence, pay up or we'll hurt you. They also have considerable credit because it's good to be the government. I guess they have considerable revenue, and people are willing to spend the money and lend them money. So, yeah, they do tax and borrow to finance their operations. Now, there's also a second tool by which the government can finance deficits. That is, if they spend more than they obtain in revenue, they do have to make up that shortfall somehow. And so what the government can do is have the central bank create money sort of out of thin air and then purchase assets. It doesn't matter what they purchase; it could be anything. Usually, it's government bonds. That's the traditional thing they do. So, because they're creating out of thin air and then purchasing assets with it, this is creating new money. It's one of two ways that new money gets created. The second being private banks can also create money out of thin air and then lend it out at a profit. Nice work if you could get it, but you can't. Because if I were to do that, that would be counterfeiting. So it's a legalized counterfeiting process, um, and this is called quantitative easing. Usually, it's done as monetary stimulus when they think the economy needs to get stimulated. Uh, they'll print money basically, hoping that they inject it into the system and that somehow makes things better. It's actually doesn't work, but it does sort of create the appearance of prosperity. So yeah, so I disagree with Mosler. He says they don't need to do this, um, or they don't do this. They do. They do need to do it, and they do it. Taxes are the primary source of revenue for the state, and then they borrow and they print, and uh, and that is how the government is financed. Another plank in Mosler's point of view here is that money gets its value from taxation. I disagree with that. I think that if theoretically the government were to basically shut down, say 95% of its functions tomorrow, and and there was no more taxation, um, we'll say there's like a still a night watchman state, just like police and judges. Uh, maybe they would finance the use like a light tariff or the sale of state assets, whatever. Um, so so would all the money be would money become worthless because there was no more taxes? Nobody needed money to pay taxes anymore? No. Uh, if that were to happen, money would still be valued. The Canadian dollars, or American dollars, Federal Reserve notes, whatever money was in circulation would remain in circulation and be valued simply because it's a medium of exchange and can be used to purchase goods and services. Maybe new money would be introduced, like commodity money that would win out in a reversal of Gresham's law. Uh, but until that happened, the existing money in circulation would retain all its value. Uh, it would probably grow more valuable because there'd be nobody replacing the notes as they got tattered and worn. Um, So money does not get its value from taxation. Money gets its value from the goods and services it can be traded for, or the taxes that can be paid. That's one element of it. But absent the taxes, the money would still have its value because it can be exchanged for other goods and services, actual goods and services. So money originates organically in the market economy, and it's done so many times historically. Because what sort of starts happening is people realize the benefit of trade. You know, if you're a fisherman, you catch a lot of fish. You can't eat all the fish you catch, and they're going to go bad if you just let them sit there and rot. So you trade. You trade with other people. Hey, give me that pointy rock or whatever. Give me that bundle of wood that you've collected. I'll give you a fish. We'll both benefit. So that's barter, and barter is the first step. But as you get a more and more advanced economy, with more and more people offering things of value to trade, then all of a sudden barter becomes less attractive because of the double coincidence of wants problem. That is, if you have fish and you want shoes, you need to find somebody who has shoes and wants fish. So what happens is, in any economy, there's the most commonly desired commodity, and people start selling their production for whatever the most commonly desired commodity is, and that commodity becomes money. It could be anything. In Virginia, in colonial Virginia, it was tobacco. In certain African tribes, it was cattle. A lot of different things have been used as commodity money. In World War II prison camps, they used cigarettes. But historically, gold and silver have won out because they have a number of money-ish qualities. They're malleable, they don't degrade easily, they've got a high value to weight ratio, and so on and so forth. So this is where money originates. It has nothing to do with taxation or the state. It's only later the state comes in and sort of monopolizes it. And we saw in colonial USA the emergent Spanish dollar. So it was the unofficial currency of the colonies, and no like government official made it so or anything like that. It was just that was the best coin in circulation at the time. The colonists sort of took it with them, and people would trade in that, and it worked very well actually. There were other coins too. They usually weren't as high quality. They were debased a little, chipped, and they traded at a discount to the Spanish dollars. So I disagree that money gets its value from taxation. It gets its value from people desiring it, from people wanting it, either for itself or for what they can get from it, from being able to trade. Um, so Mosler makes a big production about how governments can't go broke. And I would argue that governments have gone broke. Greece had its famous debt crisis. Argentina almost defaulted. They missed a number of loan payments. And then you have countries that underwent hyperinflation, Zimbabwe, Venezuela. So if you stop honoring your foreign debt obligations, you're going to have to finance all your deficit spending through expansionary bank credit. And this is going to lead to chronic inflation and severe economic crisis. Maybe the government doesn't technically go broke, but you would have a severe economic crisis from trying to finance the government through inflation, and then how do you pay for imports? And a country can't really survive without imports in this day and age. So, so what is inflation? And inflation is the expansion of the money supply. It's a general rise in prices caused by the money supply expanding, the government printing money, or private banks. It's got nothing to do with being too much aggregate demand or too much spending power, uh, and everything to do with the money supply being increased. And taxes do not curb inflation because that tax money just gets spent anyway. If they take it in, they spend it. They spend more than they take in. They spend everything they take in. In order for taxes to curb inflation, the money would need to be destroyed, either deleted out of the computer or buried in a hole in the ground. Mosler suggests a deficit of 5% might be optimal. This seems extremely high to me. In the context of the Canadian economy, that would be, I think, 150 billion, which is a substantial percentage of government revenues. I believe that such deficit would be unsustainable. And then I wanted to, I guess we'll end this chapter, my thoughts on this chapter. Um, I want to say that I believe Mosler accurately identified that government spending leaves fewer real resources for the private sector. There's a certain amount of production every year, not that it's fixed, but whatever amount, the economy or the people and businesses within it produce a certain amount of goods every year, total production. And so government spending is essentially a claim to a specific amount of that production. Um, then, we have different philosophies on the size of government. He's talking about determining what the size of government should be based on real needs or whatever. So I didn't really want to go into that because it's sort of beyond the scope of this video, and it's not really about like how the economy works, but that's sort of a normative value, that people could disagree on. It's not. So the point of this video is not to get into that. I wanted to talk about more how the government functions, how the economy functions, less on trying to defend or attack a normative value about the size of government. Just suffice it to say that my view is, if I could paraphrase Thoreau here, the government which governs best governs least, ergo the best government governs not at all. So this was my review of Mosler's 7 economic frauds. It's my review of chapter 1, the first economic fraud. Hopefully I can get around to doing 2 through 7 pretty soon. We'll see what's on the agenda. But that's all for now. You have a terrific day. And please subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this content. Take care.